Welcome back to the channel, guys. We are jumping into a jungle, and behind this we have got a 3-bed semi-detached property in the beautiful Wakefield. This property is Cutsick Road. It's a really large 3-bedroom semi-detached property with a lot of potential and a lot of work to go along with it. And what we're going to be working out is if I'm going to buy it to flip, rent in it, live in it, or indeed avoid it. Let's jump in and get started. This is definitely the sort of property that if you were coming here with your missus, you'd be thinking, this stinks of piss, I'll give it a miss. But as an investor, it stinks of pee, think of me. Now this is definitely a property we want to be looking at. So we are in one of the front reception rooms, and it's actually a really good sized room, and for that, I don't like it. And the reason why is it's kind of like, well, what do you use this for? Because it's not big enough to be the lounge, the seating area, but the kitchen's back there. This is the front of the house. And it's like, it's not really big enough for like a dining room and stuff. So I need to think about how we're using this, but you can already tell it's a little bit old school. And the reason for this is a probate property off of a local estate agent. A really good tip is once you've got a property from an estate agent, get it in legals, and a couple of weeks later, call them up and go, what else have you got? It really does need a complete rip out, a complete refurbishment. And I don't know if they were living in this property like this, but it actually does us a favor that it is back to the bare bones all the way through. And for the first room of the house, considering it's what I would call a superfluous room, it's a pretty good start. So as we're coming into the second room now, and this is the main lounge, and this is again a really good sized room. The layout is really sort of taken up with space with the quite old school fireplace, which is just behind, which we'll get through in a second. But same sort of thing, we need to scrape back this ceiling, scrape back the walls, and just completely start again. But what I'm really looking for in here is how solid it is. I'm looking in the corners of the property. Now that sounds a bit weird, but you always want to look at the upper corners to see if there's any penetrative damp, and you want to look around the windows at the bottom to see if there's any rising damp coming through. And then it's looking at this over here. You know, we've got this fireplace in, and back in the day, it would have been like, oh, this is really fashionable. You've got the ledge over there, which is where, like, you know, people would have their DVD players or video cassettes, I imagine, back in those days, and the TV. Bear in mind, we had these big block things on there. You wouldn't have had a TV on the wall. But now, because everything is so small and portable, personally, I would 100% be getting rid of that and then deciding whether to get this out or not. So as I'm coming in here, one of my favorite rooms as a prospective parent is this one right here. It's what I call the discipline room. So as you can see, it's perfectly sized to house a child if they've been naughty. You can feed them once or twice a day, depending on what. No, I'm joking. So I do really like this. It's a small appendage room, obviously. Pretty solid room, so I imagine it has something to do with supporting the structure, but more as, you know, like a space for putting all those extra bits. So personally, if I were doing this, I'd sort of clear it out, put some bits in that could show the potential, maybe a bike rack, and hang a bike up there to the side. But it's also a nice place to get the electrics. As you can see, gas meter, electric, fairly old school, as you might imagine, in a property that hasn't been refurbed since the 1750s. Joke. But it is a nice space to keep everything in. Coming out of here, we've actually got a pretty good sized kitchen. So we've got a sort of U-galley kitchen going through. You've got a beautiful double cooker here. And I know it looks bad, but a bit of a clean off, a bit of a polish, I think that'll be right good to move. Obviously, this needs a complete rip out if you are gonna, this is just not workable. This isn't a, I wish I had not done that. Oh, so grim. This is obviously not a clean it up job. It's a full rip out again, but I'm not looking for that. What I'm looking at right now is it is a very good layout. There's a lot of space, and for a family home, which at the moment it's a 3-bed, it really adds that extra dynamic. The final piece we're looking at is out here. We've got a sort of really well built, and again, in terms of the quality, if you That's not the light switch for in here. If you come in here a little bit, you see these little outbuildings nowadays that are really tacky things, and this is just, it's proper double bricked. And again, it goes directly out there, which we'll show you in a moment, and then a downstairs toilet, which again, not the most appealing right now, but I just find little things like that really handy. So, wow, genuinely very wide staircase. I hadn't noticed that before apart from coming up. And not so hard on the legs as well, which you've seen from prior videos in these bloody Yorkshire properties. When you get up, immediately high ceilings, which is good for this because this space here in the corridor or hallway isn't that big. I've just seen a loft hatch, so gonna have to get up there in a sec, aren't I? Health and safety signed off. Amazing. It's not gonna work, is it? I love the way you're genuinely not trying to help at all. I should be proud of that, won't I? First thing I see, danger. Any dead bodies? Nothing really up there. But really nice ceilings, and I think the natural light coming through from both ends is really quite good. Let's jump into the first room here, and what you'll notice about every single room is they are good sized doubles. It is a big property. Now this is the smallest of the bedrooms, and you could swing a cat around this bad boy. Personally, I'd get rid of the curtains that look like they are from a caravan. If you've still got these curtains, I apologise and get rid of them. Got some storage space in here, plenty of room to have a nap if you want to have a sleepover. There's some bits there that I'm actually going to take a photo of in a moment up here that I would be a little bit worried about. And again, the key here is the slight difference in colour. It's not that big of a deal, if I'm honest. We'll look at that a bit later. I'm not really worried about it. It feels completely dry, so that's good. But for the first room, and knowing that it's the smallest room, really decent size. But let's jump into the main bedroom. So as you can see here, nice big room. And even having this in, obviously you get rid of it. It's good for a spatial awareness thing. This is why you dress properties, to make it look a lot better, because people can visualize living there. Now this doesn't do much for that, but what it does do is it shows how much space you've got with a fairly big, and it is a double wardrobe in there. Tell how old school it is. This is where a bed would have been, and you always used to have these old school sort of like when you're in bed being able to put out the light. Obviously now most of us have bedside tables and things like that. Again, you want to have a good look at the windows, because to be fair, they are actually double glazing, which is kind of surprising in a property this old. Oh, be careful of that. But it's very good quality actually. It's the frames that would need updating. So my way of going around, and if you can have a look at these frames, there's not updating, it's more cleaning. Believe it or not, actually, you probably wouldn't look to get rid of those. You'd get some sort of oxide on it, clean it all off, and then see what it looks like. Because getting all of them cleaned might cost a couple of £100. Getting them replaced, you'd end up talking in the thousands. So I actually don't think they need replacing. But the key is, when you're looking at this, is clean off the windows, and do you see condensation between the windows? Because obviously double glazing, there's that gap. If it has got in, you're going to need to replace it. If not, it's absolutely fine. Let's go get in the bathroom. So, as you can see, I shower fully clothed. I'm born this way. I wake up this way. As you come in here, it's really weird. This looks fairly modern to me, which is a bit weird considering the rest of the house. Maybe they sort of started the kitchen and then gave up on it. But the size of this room, the absolute size of this room. Again with this, hollow, not needed at all. Now there's bound to be some pipe work in there, but that can go very easily. Again, nothing really coming up. Nothing coming through, that'll be from rising. Some movement there, but that will be settled. And whenever there's movement in a property, the newer it is, the more movement there will be. With ones like this, it ends up settling over time. So because it is so old, nothing to worry about. In general with cracks, a very crude way of thinking about it is, can you get your finger in it, yes or no? If you can, do further, get a structural survey report, otherwise you're all good. But it's more the size of this room. Now, it's great, sort of, but actually my idea is, can we maximize it? And the reason for this, if you come out here with me for a second, and we come out to here, and come from this angle, and then it's this wall. It's this wall here where I'm looking at it going, well, why is this here? Because as we know, the kitchen runs there. Is there something behind there? And then as you come through to here and the room, you can see the amount of space available. The echo in this room should be how big it is. But if we look and maybe come and look at this angle here. Now I know you can see me just, but can you hear me? Of course you haven't got a mic on. But the size of this room. Now, I'm kind of thinking out loud on this because I'll talk through the numbers on this a bit later, but imagine this door comes out to here, okay, and a wall goes across there to here and then comes across to here. Now I'll put my feet in line so you get an idea. Now I don't know what the depth perception's like looking on camera, but a double bed, if it were against the wall behind you, would end up coming to about there. Maybe here, okay, so there to my feet, we're talking about 800, okay, 800 millimeters, so almost a meter of space at the end. So for a bit of storage and that, we'd obviously need to move this across, but that really wouldn't be costly either, even just to fully replace it, open some brickwork out. And then imagine on here, you've got a frosted window and this is walled off. A door here, opening up, toilet here, acting it out for you, sink here, and then bath here. So bear in mind it would come back to about here. A bath there, that is actually the perfect size. And I'm thinking a P-shaped bath with the P on that end. So you've got a drencher shower here. Now Jamie, why are you thinking about that? That would make this room smaller, right? Well, yes, but again, that is a really solid double-sized bedroom. And then let's come back in here. Bedroom number 4. Jumping into the numbers right now, this property, as I said, come from a good local estate agent contact that we built a relationship with. And actually what happened is we agreed a price on another property, then somebody outbid us and they didn't even come back to us. Pisses me off, but I utilised the opportunity to get back in touch, go, come on, you owe me one there. They said, hey, what about this one? So we ended up getting this property at £106,000. Now, worth noting, that wasn't the highest offer. And a lot of people go, they're always going to go for the highest offer. Not true, but it was the best offer. And what I mean is £106,000 for this property was a cash offer. We're able to complete within a week and move really quickly. Whereas the other offers that were higher were mortgage, it's like down value, all of those sort of things. Now we had some buying costs of around £4,500. That includes the legals and the stamp duty. We factored in £2,500 for the holding cost, which is the council tax, utilities, everything mortgage that we're going to have on this, or cost of finance. And we've actually factored in £30,000 as a refurbishment, coming to around £143,000. That's a lot of cash in this property, but we're looking at refinancing at around £165,000, maybe 160, but we think 165. What that will mean is we can then refinance the property, leaving in £19,750. Now, that's quite a lot of money to leave in, but what about the rental? As I mentioned, there is such a lack of supply in this area of property that it means that it's going to rent out between £800 and £850 per calendar month. Now, that's a lot of money as a decent rental for a property of a value of 165 grand, but more importantly, the money left in. Now, the numbers that we always focus on is around the return on capital employed, and that's getting around an 18.7% return on capital based on a 250 minus the mortgage, which is going to be about 350 on this property, minus the management and maintenance, we're left with that solid £300 a month, which is £3,600 per annum, getting around an 18.7 to 18.9% return on capital. But there's more. What if we could move that room in there? Now this needs some further sort of looking out. Would it really impact that room too much? Because obviously we've just had a bit of a visual inspection and we need to look at the layout. But I think it will cost an extra £5,000, so that's going to put us up to £24,000 in. It's more about the end value if it is valued as a 4-bedroom property, and what would that get as a rental? So there are 4-bedroom properties going for around £200,000, but the outside, the exterior is a little bit nicer and the roads are a little bit nicer. So let's be conservative with this to really understand whether it's going to be better. I think is only going to conservatively increase it by about £15,000, meaning the end value of this property is going to be about £180,000. But how can you decide if that's better? Well, it's also the rental. Honestly, I think it could feasibly increase it to £950. It's really difficult to understand, but I like to be conservative with figures, so I'm going to make the assumption it's not going to increase the rent too much. Let's keep it at £850. But as I said, you've got the quantitative, the numbers, and the qualitative. If you could rent a 3-bed nice property for £850, or you could rent a 4-bedroom nice property for £850, which would you go for? That's not a trick question. 90% plus are going to go for the 4-bed, knowing that we're going to have insane demand. That extra £15,000, you need to work it out as 75% on top of that. Now, 75% of £15,000 is around £11,000. That is the loan to value you're going to get on a mortgage, which is the extra cash back we're going to get from debt. So what we're going to see from this is another £11,000 coming off of the cash left in. Remember, that's around £24,000 now. So we're now going to leave £13,000 left in. The 24 grand minus the 11 grand we're getting in. So £13,000 left in a 4-bedroom, £180,000 solid property with around £30,000 instant added equity adding to the net wealth in there, plus the rental income of around £300 per calendar month. So let's keep it around that to keep it good. So we've got £300 a month, which is £3,600, plus £30,000 in equity, which is £33,600, and we've only got £13,000 left in. That brings it up to around a 31% return on capital employed. Now let me ask you, what are you getting in your bank right now? And it just gets better. Here are 3 things I love about this property. The first thing I love about this property is not the cooker. How much work is needed here? Now, I know it can be a bit of a put off. However, with this amount of work, there's a lot of opportunity to add value. Number 2 is the area. And what I mean is just the feel for this property. Whether you're buying it to live in, sell on, or rent out, always think of the end user of the property. This is clearly going to be a family home. And as a family, what I'm thinking about is, when I'm looking here, it just feels safe. We're at the end of this sort of cul-de-sac. There's no cars driving up and down. You see the gardens, they're neat, well presented, and it just has this safe family feel. And the third thing that I love about this property is the lack of supply in the area. Trying to find a rental in this area is just so difficult. So much so that as a 3-bed, it'd probably rent for about £800, if not £850 per calendar month, which is a really great rental return considering what you're likely to be able to get this property at. So I've been pretty positive going around this property, but it's not all good. There are 3 bad things about this property. Number 1, penetrative doubt. Now, of course, it can be solved, and from touching it, it doesn't feel any doubt, but I really do need to inspect that and analyze the cost, because little things like that can be overlooked, the slight discoloring, but can end up costing thousands if it's not treated in the right way. The second thing I'm not a fan of is the flooring. not just this, but as you're walking through, it's just a bit all over the shop, some little slopes. It's not that big of a deal, and it'll be dampened when we've got the carpets in, but it is definitely something that you're gonna feel enough that maybe that's gonna be an added expense to get fixed. The third thing I am not a fan of is the deceptive size of it all. Now, it's very exciting as an end user, but with this amount of space available, the cost can end up going massively over what you're budgeted for. A typical 3-bed semi in this area, I'd be looking at about 20, 21 grand. But actually, I think with the size available out here, and of course in the property, that could skyrocket. So the question is, am I gonna rent it, flip it, live in it, or avoid it? Well, I'm not going to avoid the property. It's a really solid property throughout, no major concerns. It does need a lot of work doing to it, but the area is great. With that in mind, I would live in this property. I think it's a great area, a lot of opportunity, and this is my ideal, just a really sort of private but nice neighbours around, and I really think this is a great opportunity, and I would personally live here. If I flipped it as it is a 3-bed, I'd probably make about £20,000 profit. Considering the amount of money, because we'd have to buy it cash and have bought it cash, that's going to be a big issue. So that's not enough of a return to make it worthwhile, especially in this area where rentals are going up, flips are going up. And so for me, renting it and getting a solid on refinance 18.38% plus return on my capital, I'm going to be renting this bad boy out and making my house somebody's home.